Hey, welcome to Witching Hour Tarot. On a little bit of a roll here. I'm going to be away for about 10 days and I'm not going to have access to my equipment, my lighting, or my camera, or all my beautiful tarot decks. So I decided to kind of just, bulk upload to YouTube as of now. Here are my 6 decks that I primarily rely on. I know only 6, right? But as you can see from my other readings, I start with 4 cards, and then I have a general card to kind of clarify the 4 that come out, and then I clarify everything twice. So let's see, what do we want to start with? Let's do the Divine Tarot. I cleared the energy, incense, candles, all that stuff. But eager to find folks, or have folks find me that can resonate what I'm saying. The thing about tarot is that it can be like anything else. There's good and bad in everything, and it can become very toxic if you don't monitor it. But it's also, I think, a really great, almost therapeutic way of finding your self-expression. So if you're a fan of tarot, please subscribe to The Witching Hour. I am an authentic reader. I've been reading tarot for about 6 years. I've tried a little bit of everything. I've done, Celtic crosses. I've done other spreads similar. At this point, I kind of rely on my own spread. But really am a fan of it as a divination process. I don't do anything else besides that. But let's see if we can get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on in the collective. All right, let's see. I like to shuffle really well. And I said this in one of my past videos, I only read tarot cards in the upright position. So I tend to go through my decks and just make sure that all the cards are upright, and then I shuffle them in the upright position. I think that obviously everything's open to interpretation, but not all the tarot cards, not all the 78 cards in the deck are positive, and I think that just like adding that additional element to it by reading it in the reverse makes it more confusing to decipher the energy. And also, I'd be really careful on watching tarot readings daily. Energy tends to move quite slowly, think more of like a monthly cycle for how energy clears itself out, comes in and clears itself out. I think that we live in such a fast-paced world now that we tend to think that things come in and out quickly, and that's really just not the case. But whatever, if the title resonates with you, then hopefully the reading will as well. But let's see what's going on with the collective. The Magician. So this is one of the only tarot decks that I know that has a feminine depiction of the Magician. And what I really love about this tarot deck too is it's based on folklore and fables. This I think is Cinderella and the fairy godmother in Cinderella. So kind of the concept of making all your dreams come true, magic, divination, alchemy, manifestation, really mastering that. And I think, again, the Magician is, the first in the major arcana comes after the Fool. So it's kind of like the first, I kind of see it as like creativity manifesting itself. Like the Fool is kind of the person that wonders and goes off and finds more. And then the Magician is the next step, I don't want to say up or down, but the next step in, let's say, spiritual involvement after the Fool. And they kind of represent grasping that desire to learn or discover, and then manifesting from it, creating from it. There's a very human element to the magician. Let's see next. Queen of Wands. So I've been waiting for a fiery queen to come out. As you can see, this seems to be Polynesian or Hawaiian, based on some, a volcano goddess. So Queen of Wands are passion, fiery, rebellious too, but outspoken and assertive, and the sex appeal is crazy. I was talking a little bit about the Queen of Pentacles in my last reading, and the Queen of Pentacles really contrasts the Queen of Wands. Like, the Queen of Pentacles is too busy studying, and then the Queen of Wands is too busy, skipping class, like smoking stogies, and in the back alley with all the older kids or something like that. And then when a teacher comes to tell them off or tell them to get back to class, she ends up like mouthing off. That's a very like kind of inverse Queen of Wands, immature Queen of Wands energy. But you kind of get the general premise that there's definitely a rebellious nature to that, for sure, and that comes with passion. Let's see. Fourth card, Eight of Wands. So we saw this in a previous reading. This is very fast moving energy. A week or two is how we would see this energy manifesting. It's energy of communication, a message coming in. Pairs nicely with the Queen of Wands. We have Judgment. So someone's judgment is on par here. Someone's intuition is on par here. You see that lotus flower there too? Lotus flowers rise from the muck. There's kind of that classic romantic phrasing around lotus flowers, but they come from like basically mud, and they're this beautiful, delicate flower that can really only grow in these like muddy, murky circumstances. But with that, there's beauty in that, and because you've undergone because you've undergone certain struggles in your life, or your rose in the cracks of cement or whatever it might be. There's tons of metaphors out there for it. Rose that blooms in the dark or something like that. You have very accurate judgment here. It's very spot on intuition with the Magician and Queen of Wands. This is someone who's very spiritual, very gifted, very discerning, and is not afraid to communicate that as well. Let's see the final card to clarify everything. The Fool. So I love the Fool and this depiction in this particular deck. You can see the Fool. It's the first card of the major arcana in the deck, and it's kind of like a Little Mermaid-esque thing. So like, this is what I was saying, like the discovery, like a whole new world, as Ariel says, looking for something more. And lo and behold, she goes on quite the journey along the way, but not quite at that phase of being able to manifest on her own or create the situations on her own. She had to go through a little bit more processing. But this is kind of, I love the humanity in the Fool. I feel like it's a really great kind of like, the curiosity, the intelligence that people have, just as a species, is ultimately what makes us so special. Our languages, our desire to learn more, to uncover, to look up at the stars and like wonder what else is out there. Like, do other living species on this planet have that capacity? I'm not really sure. but we certainly do, and that kind of what is encompasses in the imagery of the Fool. So, you know, very like innocent, passionate, divine, powerful energy here, which is really great to see. So let's get a clarifier. You know, I'm going to use the tattoo deck to clarify. Excuse me, as I shuffle. I recently bought a new deck off Etsy. I can't wait for it to come. I really, you know, there's not a lot of decks that I like. I like when the artists can create something like original, and I feel like a lot of decks that you find online are kind of just depictions of things that have already existed. So I just love seeing like another perspective, or, you know, reading, when I look at a card, I can read into it a little bit further. This is classic tattoo artistry in this particular deck. I don't have any tattoos, but I live vicariously through this deck, which is great, you know. So let's see, what's clarifying the Magician? What's clarifying the Magician? King of Coins. So, you know, the King of Coins, Earth energy, Capricorn, Taurus, Virgo, you know, the husband card, the, you know, stable guy, the presence of someone. You can see his quite piercing eyes here too, you know, so really able to see through you. And honestly, like the King of Coins reminds me of my father, and this particular instance when I was going through a bad breakup, and I was just talking to him about, you know, the whole situation and how I felt. And, you know, it was a couple years ago. It must have been like, you know, 6 years ago or so. And I just like the presence of really listening to me, you know, when you have that intuitive feeling, when like someone really hears you, like that's what resonates with me when I see the King of Coins, King of Pentacles, for sure. Queen of Wands. What's clarifying the Queen of Wands? Let's see. Nine of Wands. So this card actually reminds me a lot. The Ten of Wands. Sorry, I'm confusing it with the Ten of Wands. The Nine of Wands, I believe, is, you know, when you see the card itself, it's someone standing kind of like timidly and then surrounded by 9 standing rods around them. There's burdens here, but even more so, like the Ten of Wands itself reminds me a lot of the story, the Greek fable of, I think it's Greek, of Sisyphus, and pushing the rock. You know, I think he's damned to push the rock up Mount Olympus or whatever it might have been, for eternity. You know, that was his fate. And that's sometimes, I guess, how we can feel. But that's the Ten of Wands that I'm referring to. Whenever I see the 9 or 10, I feel like they're kind of interchangeable. Definitely burdened, stuck, unable to, you know, free yourself. You can see that there's kind of a cage here too. Like, you know, I wouldn't want to be behind that, you know, whatever that enforces. So someone's burdened here. Queen of Wands is burdened, maybe. Let's see. Queen of Cups. So I love the Queen of Cups. Very emotive, very dreamy, fluid, Cancer, Pisces, Scorpio energy. Here, you know, I love her look. She kind of looks like, what's that movie? The Great Gatsby. Daisy in The Great Gatsby. So, you know, Daisy had choices of whom she could have loved. You know, she could have loved someone who, you know, she could have been with someone who she dearly loved, but didn't really have could walk the walk, but couldn't talk the talk. Or the version of Leonardo DiCaprio in The Great Gatsby. He could talk the talk, but he couldn't walk the walk. He had nothing to back it up. It was all kind of an illusion, right? And then her fiance was, you know, less romantically inclined, but more of a solid decision for her and less volatile. At least that's how I saw it. And she, you know, she had that decision. So that resonates here with Eight of Wands. So there's some sort of communication coming in regarding, you know, a choice you may have in love. Let's see. Two of Coins. So this is a balance. You know, I think in the original Rider-Waite tarot deck, you see someone kind of juggling two coins. A lot of people interpret it as juggling, but I see it as, you know, there's two sides to one coin. There's duality to everything. You know, everything, there's sacrifices in everything that you do. You know, if you want to get an A+ in math, you have to study for it probably, right? Unless if you're some sort of prodigy genius, you know, but not, most people aren't. So I more so see it as like, you know, sacrificing things that you need to in order to succeed in something else. And, you know, making that choice. And, you know, sometimes the choices are wrong, but there's good judgment here for sure. Burdened by what? Now we have the Wheel of Fortune. So the wheel goes round and round and round and round we go. I love the Wheel of Fortune. You know, this really strong major arcana energy here with the Fool and Wheel of Fortune. We have 0 and 10. You know, so this kind of, there's a completion here as well. Something has been completed, which is really nice. Maybe getting over all these burdens. Maybe you actually made your choice in love. Maybe you made that sacrifice that you were nervous about making. But, you know, everything, the world kind of signifies everything comes back around, and, you know, everything is encompassed in everything. You know, you can find inspiration in everything. You can find motivation in everything if you really look for it. The Wheel of Fortune is more, to me, a card of karma, but very positive karma. You know, reaping what you've sown, having things to show for it. A lot of really strong masculine and feminine energy on the deck, especially feminine. You know, I love the feminine depictions of the Fool and the Magician in this deck. Definitely adds a different spin to things. So for my last clarifier, I think I'm going to use the Tarot of Sexual Magic. Let's see. It's kind of funny, how can we measure someone's awareness? Like, how do we know how aware someone is? And, if someone's aware in one particular way, does that mean that, are they less aware if they're not aware of another thing? It's such a complicated kind of concept, and, people's perceptions and unpacking them, and, or just, their ways of being. But there are so many ways of being, too. This is kind of just, tarot reading, I love it. But it's also my hobby. I have a full-time job, totally not esoteric, very traditional. But if I could find another way to do something I love and also help people with my guidance quote, I'd love that. Eventually I'd love to also make my own tarot deck and graphic design it. But I guess more of the point is everyone's multifaceted, and we all have these. Some people are more multifaceted than others, but we all kind of have these different sides to us that are subject to change and evolve. And the older I get, the more that I realize that every situation is a case-by-case basis. You can't generalize anything, you know, like everything is a case-by-case basis. Like if you go deeper, you know, it's really, when you get into these generalizations of how things exist or how the world works, like that's when you stop learning, and that's also when you stop growing, you know, and you stay stuck in toxic cycles because like you think that this person did this because of this, but like meanwhile, like if you really ask them, if you found out why they're acting the way that they are, you'd uncover more, you know. There's just, I don't know, there's a certain arrogance in the human psyche where we don't really appreciate, you know, how different everyone actually is and the experiences that everyone has and the sameness in that too. So what's clarifying the Magician to the King of Coins? Let's take a look. Two of Swords. So I love the depiction of the Two of Swords in this deck. Let me see if you can see it. He's holding like a rose up to her face, and she's kind of like, you know, turning away from it, but her body language is very flirtatious. Her shoe is off. She's, you know, rubbing up his calf a little bit. So it's kind of like being of two minds of something, you know, but also there's a mastery to this as well. Like this young lady here is like could, you know, be described as a master seducer. You know, her suitor is coming to her with like, you know, having a rose and putting a rose in her face, and she's coyly kind of, your body language is very, very, you know, coy, but so flirtatious. And so when you see it in the original Rider Right deck, that's this person, they have a blindfold on and they're holding two swords, and it's kind of like whenever you see like knife throwing, and someone like they're blindfolded and the knives are thrown at them, they're like magicians or like in movies or what have you. There's a degree of mastery to it, but also a choice, you know, like you're subject to make that choice if you'd like. Air energy. Oh, here's the Queen of Wands again. So there's definitely a spicy lady on the table tonight. Burdened. Who's burdened? I don't think she's the one who's burdened. She's not burdened here. Maybe someone made a mistake regarding, you know, the woman who they have passion for, you know, like the Queen of Cups. You know, was she wrong to not choose Leonardo? Was Daisy wrong not to choose Mr. Gatsby? Probably not. You know? So I see the Queen of Wands as being like the Mr. Gatsby in this situation. And someone's burdened by the fact that they didn't choose the Queen of Wands when they have something like this, like a King of Coins around the corner for them. You know, or it's all interchangeable, but I see that the Queen of Wands is left out in the cold somehow. Someone didn't know what they were getting themselves into with this fiery, passionate, rebellious energy, burdened by it. Ace of Chalices, but love. But there is love here, for sure. This Cup of Love, and you know, I love, this is just like the sweetest, like, love making here. You know, nothing raunchy about that. Someone loves you very much, and they're looking over their shoulder, wondering if they made the wrong or right choice. and see, you know, the way that these cards are laid out, you know, all the same, like they're blocked, like the burdens are blocking the King of Coins. Someone's too caught in their head of the past. Three of Pentacles. So the Three of Pentacles is a learning card. It's of masonry, of architecture, of cooperation, collaboration. In the original red or white tarot deck, I think it's like three. They look like priests working on building a church. So everything that encompasses that kind of, you know, situation. But also, like in this particular deck, again, I feel like I love how romantic this deck is. The way that he's embracing her, and there's so much devotion in the way that he's holding her, but then also like her body language, like it's very like retracted, but like comfortable in a sense. Like imagine someone picking you up like that. They'd have to be so strong, number one. You know, she's like barely holding on. She just like has his hand on his, wrapped around his neck. So learning to love, maybe, you know, learning to love, to show someone how much you care for them. It's pretty. It's a nice romantic reading for y'all. Oh, and we have the Three of Wands here. So this is, I love the threes. This is kind of like a card of discovery. It reminds me a little bit of, the original deck reminds me a little bit of Christopher Columbus, like before he discovered North America. And I think it depicts someone kind of standing out on a cliff with their three rods surrounding them, like looking out in the distance. So there's definitely this really great theme of discovery and, you know, maybe making mistakes, making small ones though, you know, not mistakes with your life, but small enough mistakes to realize that, you know, you're only human. We're only all human. Nobody's perfect. And discovering that, you know, very lovingly, it's nice. Alrighty, y'all. Love, peace, and blessings.